Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today alongside my distinguished fellow panelists. Our topic couldn't be more important or timely. Despite President Trump's repeated calls on Putin to stop, Ukraine continues to face a relentless assault, both on the ground and through the air. Putin apparently still clings to the hope that he can break Ukraine's resistance and outlast Western will. I have no doubt the Ukrainians will continue to prove him wrong, and they continue to find new ways to surprise the world with their ingenuity, such as Operation Spiderweb, which dealt a gut punch to Russian long-range aviation. But Ukraine needs our help. After all, Russia is not fighting alone, but with key support from its authoritarian friends in Beijing, Pyongyang, and Tehran. The past few months have seen Ukraine's air and missile defense capacity, already in short supply, get stretched even further. Despite Western sanctions, as my colleagues have touched on, Russia has steadily expanded its production of ballistic and cruise missiles and Shahed-type one-way attack drones, in large part thanks to supplies of components and machinery from China. Meanwhile, North Korea continues to supply Russia with KN-23 ballistic missiles, which have become more accurate thanks to Moscow's assistance. As my colleagues also touched on, Russia has engaged in tactical and technical adaptation with its Shahed-type drones to counter Ukraine's cost-effective mobile fire groups and electronic warfare. The end result is that not only is Russia launching more of these drones, but more are getting through. In recent weeks and months, Russia has repeatedly broken its own gruesome records for the most projectiles launched in a single night, and Ukrainian civilians have paid the price. According to UN data, almost 1,000 civilians were killed or injured in the first half of July alone. In addition to attacking critical infrastructure and Ukrainian civilians, Russia's current strike campaign aims to undermine Ukraine's war effort. One recent example, according to Defense News, is a strike on a Ukrainian drone company that's working with the U.S. Defense Intelligence Unit's Project Artemis. It's a poignant example that what happens in Ukraine has security implications here at home in the United States. So, what can we do? First, we need to put meat on the bones of the recent pledges to transfer German patriots to Ukraine, backfilled by the United States. And this new aid mechanism shouldn't be limited to patriots, but should be expanded to include other material as well, including munitions for Ukraine's other air defense capabilities. In other words, it shouldn't just be one patriot and done. If these arms are to reach Ukraine in a timely manner, frankly, we may have to accept a little short-term risk with our own stocks, understanding that Ukraine is the one currently in the fight and is actively degrading the Russian military threat. And as my colleagues at my think tank, FDD, have argued, the risk is manageable and can be mitigated through investment in maximal U.S. production. In addition, as my colleague Mark Montgomery argued after a recent trip to Ukraine, the United States should help Kyiv integrate the advanced counter-drone rockets with its F-16s to counter Shahed-type drones, the same rockets that the American F-16s and F-15s have recently been using in the Middle East. Earlier this summer, the Pentagon diverted to the Middle East fuses for those rockets that had been procured for Ukraine. With the Iran-Israel war now over, the Pentagon and Congress should reassess the quantities needed in the Central Command area of responsibility and send as many as possible to Ukraine. Moreover, Western countries should provide funding for Ukrainian companies to scale up production of promised new capabilities such as counter-Shahed FPV drones and automatic aircraft turrets like the Sky Sentinel. Europe has recently taken a good first step on this front, but more funding would be useful. And any USAI funding that's been committed but not yet obligated should be put on contract as soon as possible. To create maximal leverage over Putin, the Trump administration should tap its remaining presidential drawdown authority for Ukraine and ask Congress for a Ukraine leverage package that provides additional PDA replacement funding and USAI funding. This could be used in part to bolster Ukraine's air defenses. But Ukraine shouldn't be restricted merely to shooting down arrows. It'll always be hard to make that math work, particularly for ballistic missile defense. An optimal approach will combine both defense and offense. Ukraine needs to be able to hit the proverbial archer, as well as the factories that make the arrows. Although Ukraine has struck many Russian military, industrial, and energy sites with indigenous long-range drones, many of these drones get shot down or neutralized by electronic warfare, and they generally carry pretty small warheads, making it hard to cripple major factories. More ATACMS, Storm Shadow, and Scout missiles would be useful, but what Ukraine really needs is longer-range capabilities to hit key missile and drone factories deeper in Russia. This could include missiles like the Tomahawk. Notably, the U.S. Marine Corps wants to cancel its new long-range fire system designed to launch Tomahawks, and will have a few systems left over that could be provided to Ukraine. With the Tomahawk, Ukraine could hit targets such as the plants producing Russia's Goran and Garpia Shahed-type drones, which are both more than 1,000 kilometers away. And then finally, a quick word about sanctions and export controls. So they have certainly proven to be imperfect tools, but they do make it harder and more expensive for Russia's military-industrial base to acquire key components and machinery. Russian sanctions enforcement packages should be and used to be routine, but since taking office, the current administration hasn't issued any. And as a result, the Russia sanctions regime has atrophied. This is hardly the time to be making life easier for Russia's war machine. And we need to combine enhanced enforcement with broader pressure on the Russian economy, especially its oil revenue. President Trump's objective of peace in Ukraine is the right one, but Putin will continue his unprovoked war so long as he believes it's sustainable and offers a pathway to achieving his goals. Ultimately, U.S. aid for Ukraine is more sustainable than Russia's war. By shoring up Ukraine's air defenses, enabling Ukraine to inflict growing costs on Russia's war machine, as well as pressuring the Russian economy and exhausting Russia's offensive potential on the ground, we may be able to start changing Putin's mind. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.